Hello everyone. Well, the last video that I made about holsters, I said I was going to do a review on the Crimson Trace laser and the holster that I made for it. I will cover that in a couple of minutes here. This actual video is to cover how I made this particular holster here, so you can have an idea of how you can make your own holsters and how I did it, things I used to do it, and hopefully help you to do the same. If you happen to have any ways that come out better, ideas, so forth, please post them so anybody else watching can learn from you too. Anyway, this is the open carry that I made for my Kydex. It's a 14 round pistol, kind of heavy and bulky, so I don't really conceal it often. But I did make an open carry just in case I do happen to go to the shooting range and want to open carry it, or if I go to some private property. This is the actual holster that I did make in the video, so it's going to use a different type of clip for your belt, and of course it's formed a little bit different, but they're all made basically the same in regards to what the procedures are and so forth. This would be for my concealed carry for the Kydex, once again this 14 round. The only thing different is when you're doing the vacuuming, which I'll show you in the video, you'd want to try to push in more here so this side comes out flat as you can. It's going to have some form to it, but you don't want all of this to be pushed up against your hip. You'd rather have the smooth side against your hip. Okay. Here's my Kydex. I do want to let you know that I do have my concealed carry license. I do carry legally, so if your state requires that you have some sort of permit to open or conceal carry, please make sure you abide by the laws. Okay. This pistol is safe. Okay. So the pistol goes in. It does rock. So once again, kind of like the like I said on that one, which both of them do it, it'll allow you to adjust it when you're concealed carrying it. You can slide it in and back and forth on your belt, forward, backwards, and then adjust it. When you get in the car, you can kind of tilt it, so forth, to be comfortable. Once again, this is the side that you want all your detailing on, and then have that side smooth. Now to get to the Taurus, my normal concealed carry. Once again, weapon is empty and safe. Okay, this was the second holster that I made for this pistol, and the first one didn't have it for the Crimson Trace, so now I had to make a second one. Now when I made this, I used a different style of tools. I used a Ziploc bag and a shop vac and a towel. When I took it out of the oven and wrapped it, Kydex was so hot that it actually burned the towel indentions into it. So kind of let you know that that's what can happen if you're using a towel. With the vacuum seal, like I did these two, I didn't have to worry about that because the vacuum seal bags hold a lot higher temperatures before they start melting. Okay. So the review on the Crimson Trace, this thing is great. Here's how it works. Basically right here is your button that turns it on. There's no switch, nothing like that. So when you actually go to grab the handle, the butt of the gun, it will automatically come on as you squeeze. Your finger right there as you pull turns on the light. So that way you don't have to worry about touching the trigger, flipping any kind of switches. This thing shoots true. I can hit bullseye from 20 yards away, no problem. Daylight, of course, is the only issue. The brighter the lights, the harder it will be to see the dot, but you always want to try to use your regular sights before using your laser anyway. Only time I'd use a laser is if I had to quick draw, close range, whatnot. But this thing's a great idea. Whoever invented it, designed it, put a lot of good thinking into it. So my main concealed carry wouldn't go without it. Keep watching on the video if you want to see how I made this holster and to give you ideas of how I made the other holsters. If you have any ideas, once again, go ahead and post them so other people can learn from it. And I do apologize about any editing on the video because I am not a professional. Thank you. Y'all be safe. Enjoy the video. Here are some items that I forgot to mention that were needed as I go through the video. Of course, you'll need a glove to pull the hot stuff out of the oven. 2 would work. I used 1 because I needed one hand to be able to not have a glove on it because you can't really feel much with the glove. 2 would probably be a good idea to have. I used a book because I'm going to use that to cut the Kydex. I used some drill bits. I used a pen, which is to go for your sight, so that way it'll leave a spacer. I'll go into details on that in the video. I use popsicle sticks to cover up any spots on your pistol that are wider than others, so then that way when you're pulling it out of the holster, it won't protrude and get stuck in the holster. You'll see as I tape up, and then I use some masking tape. You can probably use other tape, but masking works good because it doesn't melt and it doesn't stick permanently to your pistol. And of course, to the right, I use the heating gun and the drill. So those are some things I didn't mention in the video here when I started on what I needed. Anyway, I think we'll move on to the video now. Outside the pants, and I plan to use this clip. Hopefully it works out. Let's see what happens. Tools that I'm using. I've got, of course, a sheet of Kydex. Hopefully I'll only need one. This is kind of like a latex glove I cut, because once I'm going to start basically trimming this up, and I want to keep this from sliding. So I'm going to use that hopefully to keep it from sliding around as I'm cutting my edges. I've got some food processor dry bags, and then of course the vacuum seal for the bags. I already sealed one end. I guess I can go ahead and cut this and get it ready for the next one. I found last night that this works wonders. Makes life a lot easier than just doing the Ziploc bags, which I had been doing, because Ziploc bags work great. The only problem is that they don't withstand much heat. So after a few seconds of them being in the bag, they tend to melt, and that's why I'd have to use a towel as I fold it and then put it in the bag with the towel. It doesn't let it get the form that I like, which came out like this. Okay, that actually compresses, and I'll show you in a little bit exactly what I'm talking about. But for the most part, put the gun in there, close this up, turn it on. It sucks all the air out, which allows the Kydex to completely form the best that it can. It's kind of tricky. You got to make sure that you don't get any kinks in the bag, because otherwise it'll cause it not to suck in the way you want it. And then once we're done there, I use the air gun, the heat gun, to get a little better form or to release some form. I'll show you more in detail later. Of course, the Dremel, so I can cut down the edging and form it the way that I want it to fit around the gun. That would be the tool to cut it. That's to sand it down, the edges, so they're smooth. Those are spacers, and those are the bolts to apply for the spacers. Cutting knife, which I'll use here in a couple of minutes to cut the Kydex. Scissors, and of course the plastic. And I believe, of course, the oven is the last thing. Well, and then a marker, so we can mark the Kydex on where we want to make the cuts. Alrighty, so let's get started. First off, we will grab the pistol, and we're actually going to do the slippery side. Sorry, I washed it off earlier, so I had been sitting in storage racks for 4 years. Okay, so you want to figure out where you're going to want it to overlap. I pretty much cut the trigger part here, so this bottom part of the trigger is going to show, and then you also want to make sure that you've got enough here, so that way you can have a place to crimp. Then again, you also want to make sure that you're close enough to the front. I don't know if you want your barrel to stick out. I don't, because I like to have extra room to be able to put bolts. If I need to, I can always trim it down. So I would say about there, and then just kind of roll it over. And then there, and then you get your marker, and you kind of just draw a little line. Okay. And once you've got your line, GoPro. It's a good idea to use some popsicle sticks, break them down to size, use them in any areas that you would have any kind of parts of the gun that stick out that will not allow you to pull it out of the holster properly. Here, for example, I'm placing in a piece and taping it on, because to the left of it, towards the barrel, is my magazine release, and it kind of sticks out a little far, so I'm using this to compensate for that space when I pull it out. Otherwise I won't be able to pull the gun out of the holster easily. I'm also using a pen here to use as the guide for my front sights. If the sight for some reason happens to be too tall and I try to pull it out of the holster, it won't allow me to actually slide it through the holster without jamming. So I want to have some kind of spacing in there for when I pull it out so it doesn't snag on the front sight. So you want to go around your whole pistol and fix any kind of items like this, so that way it won't hold up in the holster once you've got it created. Otherwise you'll have to tape this all on later and possibly redo your holster. In worst case, you can probably just do this and try to reheat the holster and start without actually starting from scratch. Go ahead and make sure your oven's set to about 350 degrees. Once it reaches temperature, drop your Kydex on the towel and on the tray into the oven. Here I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit more touching up with the tape. Once it's ready, I'll pull it out and go ahead and start putting it in the bag. When I put it in the bag, if you notice, I'll turn on the sealer and I'll also kind of pull the bag apart because you don't want any kinks in the bag while it's vacuuming. So the noise you're hearing now, that's the bag with the vacuum trying to suck in where the magazine goes. As long as you've got that sound, you know that it's going to be airtight. It's basically concealing, vacuuming every area that it can. If you need to, if it's taken too long to do this to this point, you can also take the heat gun and heat up the Kydex from outside the bag and form it like I am here. Just, of course, I'm not using the heat gun because I did it fast enough. If you also want to cool it off faster because you got everything formed the way you want to and you don't want to wait for it to cool off, you can run it under cold water as long as the vacuum is sealed, which of course while it's making that sound, you obviously know that it is sealed. Once you got everything formed the way you want and it's all cooled off, just go ahead and open the bag and remove the pistol, and then you're ready to start cutting.
Okay, here's where you need to mark your small sections at a time. Make sure you do not overcut, so I recommend small cuts. If you need to cut more off, then you can, but once you cut it off, you can't put it back. And if you end up cutting off too much, you might have to remake the whole the holster from scratch. Okay, be real careful because I will be using a steel blade here, so if you're doing the same, just be cautious and safe, okay? Here I'm making sure that the holster will not get in the way of my hand when I try to grip the pistol. So once again, just kind of make small cuts. If you need to, you can sandpaper or cut more if needed, okay? So here I switched to the sander, and I'm basically just smoothing down the edges and taking off any extra cutted area that I didn't want instead of just cutting. Now, if you remember, this holster is going to be for an open carry. It will not have my waist and, of course, the belt to be holding it steady. So I'm going to have to make sure it's extra secure. That's why I'm folding this flap over, and then I'm going to put the clip that clips onto my belts through those two pieces of the Kydex that's folding over. Okay, you can add 2 holes with screws if you want, or you can do just 1. Depends on how you feel the holster turned out. At any time, if you feel that you want it tighter or looser, you can always reseal it with the bag, hit it with the heat gun, and go ahead and make your adjustments there too. So just to let you know, you're not stuck with what you've got. You can always improve it if you want. Like I said, hit it in the vacuum bag and then heat it up with the heat gun and reform it to your likings. Anyway, that's about it for this video. So hope you guys liked it. Questions, comments, helpful tips, anything you can provide would be good. Thank you.